this video, I'll teach you 3 concepts in AutoCAD which are related with blocks. We'll start with external references, then we will see the design center and the tools palette. Using the concept of external references, we can insert different types of files into the current drawing without that file being the part of the current drawing. The software establishes a link between that external object and the current drawing in such a way that any changes performed in that object will get reflected in the current drawing. Let's see that. I'll open a new file and I'll create a room with a dimension of 1200 by 450 centimeters. So I'll go to rectangle, I'll click the first corner here, then go to dimension option and I'll give a length of 1200 and a width of 450. And I'll click to define the opposite corner point and let this profile indicate the inner dimensions of the wall layout of a hostel room. And I'll give an offset command to create the wall thickness of 20. I'll select this object and I'll pick a point on the desired side. Next, I'll save this file. I'll go to application button and save as, and I'll call it as hostel room. Next, I'll give the command Xref for external reference. So I'll type the letter XR as the abbreviation. Now you will get the Xref palette. Over here, we have an attach option and you can attach several different types of files. You can attach a DWG or image files, etc. So I'll click on DWG and I'll choose the bed file. Give open. Now you will get 2 options here. That is the reference type. It can be attached or overlaid. I'll choose attachment. Now you will get the same options which we have seen in the case of insert dialog. That is scale, then insertion point, rotation angle, etc. And the path can be a full path or a relative path. When you select a full path, the software will memorize the entire path including the drive letter. If you select relative path, it will memorize the path in terms of the relative path. And if both the files are kept in the same folder, that file will be easily identified by the software. Now I'll just give OK and I'll choose the insertion point as this nearest point. So I'll shift right click and choose nearest. Next, I would like to take a copy of the same Xref. 2 more copies I'll take. So I'll go for copy and there's a base point. Let me turn the ortho on. Then 1 more point I'll pick here. Let me just rearrange it slightly towards left side. Now the Xref objects are shown in the faded out state. You can control this fade out status by right clicking and go to options. You click on display tab and you can select the fade control of Xref. Presently it is 50%. As you increase it, the fade out will be more. Now it is faded out more. So I right click, go to options and display, and you can keep it at 50%. So if it is faded out, you can easily identify the Xref objects. I'll apply and OK. Now I'll go back to the bed file which was originally Xrefed and I'll incorporate some changes on this file. I would like to add an indication of a mat over here using a rectangle. So I'll change my color to a different color. Let it be this yellow. Then I'll take rectangle command and I'll click my first corner here and the opposite corner here. Then I'll trim off the excess portion which is overlapping the bed. Then I'll go to trim command, just give an enter and these are the edges to be trimmed. Next I'll save the file using the shortcut key Ctrl S. When you come to the hostel room file, you will see an information bubble appearing here indicating that a reference file has been changed and may need reloading. So when you just click on this particular hyperlink, now you will see that the changes are getting automatically updated. So any changes performed in the external referenced file will get updated in the current drawing. That is the advantage. Here the parent of this Xref is the external drawing and the block definition is not created. The speciality of an external reference when you compare with block reference is that the external referenced file, for example, this particular drawing of the bed can be anywhere. Presently, it is kept in the local hard disk of this computer, but this file can be anywhere in a computer networked environment. It can be in any computer in a local area network, in a web server located anywhere in the world. Imagine the editing on this particular bed is done by a furniture designer who is sitting in some other computer. As and when he saves the changes periodically, that change will get updated into the current drawing. And that drawing will never become a part of this drawing. And this particular drawing is dependent on that drawing, because of which you have to take that particular Xref file along with this file if you want to relocate this file to a different location. In this drawing, the software memorizes certain parameters of the Xref file such as the insertion point location, the scale factor, the name of the Xref file, the path in which it is actually existing, etc. If the Xref file is taken to a different location, let's see what happens. I'll save this file by pressing Ctrl S. Now I'll close this file. Next I'll close this bed drawing as well. We know that that particular drawing of the bed is kept in WB folder, but from this WB I'll just cut and paste it to a different folder. Let it be, I'll put it into royalty free folder. It's a different folder. Now I'll open the same hostel room file. When you open it, let's see what happens. One or more referenced file could not be located or read. What do you want to do? So you can either update the location of the reference file by showing the new location. You can update it. Let's zoom in and find out what is written here. Here the relative path is written. In this location, there is an Xref called bed.dwg, and that information is shown. Now I want to show the new location of the Xref. For that, just select the Xref and under the details option, you will get the saved path. Just click on that and you will get a browser here. Just click on the browser and you select the new path. It was actually a particular folder on the desktop which was called royalty free. I've kept it on that folder and just select the Xref and give open. The moment you click on open, it will get automatically reloaded and you will see the Xref reappearing on the screen. You can also edit an Xref file from within this drawing. For that, this Xref file should not be opened. Now we know that it's closed. Just select the Xref, right click, and you go to Edit Xref in Place option and just give OK. Now the original drawing will get dimmed off. It is as if the original drawing is Xref'd, and you will get an Edit Reference menu, which you have seen in the case of editing a block, and you can incorporate the change. Let it be a hatch on this area. So I'll type the letter H. Now I'll pick an inside point. I'll pick an inside point and that area is hatched. And if you want, you can change the scale. I'll increase the scale to a higher value. And I'll change the pattern color to this shade. Okay, and I'll change the pattern to a different pattern. And the hash pattern I'll change to this particular pattern because that indicates the matte. Then I'll go to Save Changes option and just give OK to see the changes getting updated on rest of the references. Now let's see the original Xref file and find out whether this change is reflecting in that file. So I'll go to Open and I'll open the file from the new path, which is the royalty free folder. I've kept it there and just give Open. Now you will see that the original Xref file will also get changed. So we have in fact two methods by which you can perform editing on an Xref. You can edit an Xref from within the current drawing, or else you can open the Xref file and you can make changes there and save that file there. When you click on a particular Xref, it getting highlighted, then you just right click and you will get a number of options. When you click on open, you can open the Xref drawing, and when you right click and attach, you can attach any number of Xrefs. When you click on unload, it will detach the Xref, hiding its display, but the software will memorize certain information like the insertion point, scale factor, path, name of the Xref, etc. Whenever you want to get the Xref back, you can just select right click and you click on reload. Now we have another option called detach. Detach will completely detach the Xref file from the current drawing and you won't see that Xref appearing here. I'll undo to get it back. Then you right click and you have a bind option. When you click on bind, you can bind the Xref with the current drawing. Okay, when you just give OK, that Xref will disappear, but those Xrefs will become block references and the software automatically creates the definition. And how will you know whether a definition is existing? Just click on the insert command and you will see the bed as a definition here, because this area indicates the number of block definitions you have in your drawing. Now I'll undo this change. Now it is back to Xref. It is no longer a block definition. Next I'm going to Xref this room into the bed drawing. Okay, in fact the bed drawing is Xref'd into this room. Now I'm going to do it the other way around. So let's try that. Before that, you should change the base point of this drawing from origin to this particular midpoint. So I'll click on block and you select set base point option and you click over here. Now the base point is relocated. Now I'll save this file, press Ctrl S, go back to the bed drawing. Now go to attach DWG and you select the hostel room, reference type to attachment, and when I give OK, I'll get a message that circular reference detected. Because you have taken the reference type of the bed file in the hostel room is taken as attachment. Okay, that reference type can be changed by selecting the Xref and go to reference type and go to overlay. Now save the file Go back to the bed drawing. Next, you go for one more Xref. I'll go to attach DWG and you select the hostel room file and select reference type to attachment and give OK. Now you attach it in a convenient location. Let it be this point. Now any changes performed in the hostel room file will get reflected in the bed file. So let us stretch it and save it. Now you go to bed file and you will get a information bubble appearing asking you to reload it. Just click on it. That change will get reflected. Hence these two files are mutually Xrefed. So that can also be done. So whenever you want two files to be mutually referenced, you should take the reference type to overlay. So that's all about the concept and application of external references in AutoCAD. Next we will see the concept of AutoCAD Design Center. In order to explain this concept better, I'm going to make use of another drawing file, and this file is provided along with the video. And here it is called Design Center. I'll just open this file, and it is a plan and elevation of a house. And this particular drawing consists of a number of block definitions. And if you want to check the number of definitions you already have in this drawing, just click on the insert command and you will see the preview of all the definitions. You can just click and insert this definition to this particular file. But my requirement is to use this definition in some other file without making it a world block. You can use Design Center for such applications. I'll just close this file. Okay. Now I would like to insert some of the definitions from that particular file into this file. Design Center is basically a content management system using which you can share various contents in the invisible table areas in a drawing, such as blocks, layers, etc. You can access the Design Center in various ways. You can go to Insert tab. Here you have a Design Center button. Just click on this button to get this interface. Or else you can give AD Center command using the keyboard to get the same interface. But you have a shortcut key which is Ctrl+2, and that is a preferred method to access this interface. So Design Center is basically palette. So just like any other palettes, it can be taken to anywhere on the screen, but it can be docked on any side. So I have just docked it right here. On the left side of the Design Center palette, you will see a full-fledged file browser, and on the right side, you will see the items in the various table areas in a drawing. Now I'm going to locate the file from which I'm going to perform insertions of some block definitions. So I'll go to desktop, and here I have a folder called WB, and in here I have a Design Center drawing. Just double click on that. So it will show you the various table areas like blocks, layers, etc. So when you just double click on the layers, you will see all the layers you have in this drawing. Suppose if you want to create a layer called wall, all you have to do is just select the layer wall and you just drag it over here. Now when you look at the layer properties, you will see that layer being automatically created with the properties assigned to that layer. Now I want to go back, so I just click on the back button, and here you have all the options like go back, open, go forward, go up, which are required to perform navigations. Now I'll just click on blocks. Now you will see the list of all the block definitions you have in this drawing. Now I would like to access the double-seater sofa. So I'll just drag it and drop it. This is one way of doing it. Okay. Or else you can just double click over here. So you will get the same insert dialog box appearing, which you have seen in the case of blocks. And over here you can provide the scale factors and rotation angles. Suppose if I want to rotate it by 180 degrees, I'll give 180 and just give OK. Now I have got another version of the same block rotated through 180. You can insert it. Likewise, using this Design Center interface, you can get any content from a drawing simply by drag dropping it. You can insert it into the current drawing file. And this palette will let you access any drawing file from the local computer or from a computer network. But we also have an option called Autodesk Seek in this palette, using which you can access any desired drawing file from the web. So I'll click on Autodesk Seek. So it will automatically go to Autodesk Server and you will get this page. Over here you have a search bar. You can just type in any desired file to be searched. I'll go for sofa and just click on search, and you will see different types of sofas. I'll just click on this particular one and you will get a preview of it like this. Related with this sofa, we have different types of file. We can download the Revit file of the sofa. Revit is a software which is meant to implement building information modeling It is from the same company, Autodesk. Then we have 3 drawing files, 5 PDF files and 1 text file. I'll click on the drawing file. You're supposed to log in using the Autodesk user ID and password, which you will get from autodesk.com. So I've already logged in here. You can just select the file to be downloaded. I would like to get this particular one, and you can just click on download. The software downloads this file, and I have kept it on the desktop over here. I'll just double click and you will get the 2D file as well as a 3D file of that sofa. I'll just double click to get the 2D file. Now this is that particular file. So likewise, you can make use of the Autodesk Seek to get any desired drawing file from the web. So that's all about Design Center. Next we will see another commonly used palette in AutoCAD, which is called Tool Palette. Using Tool Palette, you can systematically organize blocks, hatches, and objects such as lines, circles, etc. having various properties set. And this interface will give you easy access to some of the most frequently used objects and commands in AutoCAD. You can access this interface using 3 different methods. You can go to View menu and you click on Tools Palette to get it. This is the interface. I'll just close it. Or else you can type the command TP for Tool Palette to get the same interface. Alternatively, you can press Ctrl 3 to get the same result. When you go through the Tool Palette, you can see that it is divided into various tabs. We have Annotation tab, Architectural tab, Mechanical tab, etc. Suppose if you click on a particular tab, you will see the number of objects which are frequently used. These are nothing but blocks. And suppose if you want a particular item, for example, I want this particular tree to be taken, you can just drag it and drop it onto the drawing. You will get that tree. Hence, accessing an item from the Tool Palette is very easy. But you can add your own objects and commands to this Tools Palette. So let's see the procedure to customize this palette. You know that this particular drawing consists of various block definitions. I'll go to Home tab and I'll click on the Insert button to see the list of all the definitions which I have in my drawing. And I would like to reuse some of the definitions in all my future drawings. In that case, you can create a new palette and you can add these blocks onto that palette. So let's see that procedure. We are actually going to customize the tool palette. I'll just right click and I'll go to Customize Palettes, and here you have a Customize Palette interface. On the left side we have the list of all the palettes which are currently present, and on the right side we have the palette groups. Each palette can be grouped under a particular group. So what I'll do is I'll create a new palette. For that, just right click over here and click on New Palette, and I'll give a name. Since I'm going to add a number of blocks here, I'll call it as SAB Blocks. A new palette I'll just rename and I'll call it as SAB Blocks. Now you can see a new tab created here. Next, I would like to add a number of custom objects having certain predefined properties. So I'll call it as SAB Objects. So again, right click, go to New Palette, I'll call it as SAB Objects. Okay, so I have created 2 palettes. Then I'll create a new palette group as well. So right click, New Group, and I'll call it as SAB Group. Simply by performing click and drag, I can add these 2 newly created palettes to the palette group SAB Group. So these 2 palettes are under this particular group. Now I'll just select the group name and I'll click on Set Current. So I'll be shown that particular group, and in this group there are 2 tabs. One is called SAB Objects, another one is SAB Blocks. So this is the advantage of grouping a number of palettes. You can independently view the palettes which comes under that group. Now I'll activate the SAB Blocks palette. Okay, I'll close it. I would like to add a number of blocks into this. So I'll take, for example, this bed. I'll click and drag it over here. So I've got the bed. Now one more block I would like to take from here, which is the door symbol. So that too I can click and drag. Then one more I'll take, let it be the 3-seater sofa. Okay. Then one more I'll take, let it be a single-seater sofa. So I've got all these objects here. Now I'm going to add these objects onto the palette. So just click and drag this object and you leave it there. So that block name will appear here. Now similarly, you can click and drag all the rest of the objects. Now just right click over here and you can add a separator. So you will see one line and you can have a different set of objects meant for a different purpose. Something like landscaping objects. You can take from here. I'll choose palm tree. I'll also choose a shrub. Okay, these are all landscaping objects, and these objects can also be added to this palette. Optionally, you can right click and add a text to provide some information related with objects. I'll add a text and I'll call it as landscaping, and just drag it. I can keep it on top. You can also perform copy paste operations on the palette. I'll right click over here and I'll copy, and right click again and I'll paste. Okay, so you will see the same sofa appearing here. I'll drag it and drop it over here. So you will see the sofa appearing here. I'll right click and I'll go to properties to get the properties related with this object, and I'll rename this as a sofa rotated. Then you can give a scale factor if you want. You can give a rotation angle. I'll give 180 degree as a rotation. Okay, and I'll give OK. So this is nothing but a rotated sofa. Right click and add a text, and I'll call it as furniture. So that is my new palette of blocks. Next, we will create objects with some predefined properties and add to SAB objects palette. I'll close this file. This is a new file, and I'll create two layers called walls and pillars. And for the wall layer, I'll assign this particular color, and for the pillar layer, I'll assign a different color. Next, I'll activate the wall layer as a current layer, and then I'll draw a line in it. Then I'll activate the pillars as the current layer, then I'll draw a circle in it. Next, I'll activate the SAB objects palette. I'll just drag and drop this line into this palette, and I'll call this object as walls. So I'll right click and rename and call it as walls. Similarly, I'll drag and drop this circle into the same palette, and I'll rename it as pillars. Next, I'll close this drawing as well. I'll open a new drawing file, and here you can see the palettes which you have created. Now, using the walls, I'm going to create a wall line. Now you can see that presently we have only the zero layer. When you click on walls, you can create lines. But when you click on this arrow, instead of lines, you can also create polylines and other objects. So I'll click on polylines. Now I'll start from this point. I'll turn the ortho mode on, and I'll give a distance of 750. Rightward, I'll move through a distance of 1500. Then in this direction, I'll pick a point. Then one more. Then corresponding to this point, I'll just track these 2 points, and I'll pick a point and right click and I'll close it. Let this indicate the wall layout, and I'll give an offset command, an offset distance of 20. Select object and the side. Okay. Now I would like to create 2 pillars here. So I'll click on pillars, and I'll pick a point over here. Then I'll give a radius of 12. Now I'll take a copy of the same pillar. I'll take 2 copies and I'll keep it here. Okay. Now let's check the layer panel. You can see that the software has automatically created the pillars as well as the walls layers. And the wall is residing in the walls layer, and the pillars are existing in the pillars layer. So these layers are automatically created with the assigned properties. That is the advantage of creating these objects using the tool palette. Next, I would like to have furnitures inside. So I'll click on SAB blocks, and I'll click on the sofa. I'll get sofa here, but it's big. That's because these blocks are created in centimeters. So you have to change the insertion units to centimeters. So I'll go to units command, and I'll change the unit to centimeters. Now I'll click on sofa. It's perfect now. I'll keep a sofa here, then single seater here, rotated sofa here. Okay, this can be taken to any place you want, and you can manipulate it. This is how you can make use of the various tools in the tool palette which you create. Once you create a palette, it can be saved and it can be shared among your colleagues. So let's see the procedure. Right click on the palette, go to customize palettes, just choose the palette to be exported. So I want to export SAB blocks palette. So right click and you have an export option. You can choose the folder in which it is to be exported, and I would like to keep it in the desktop for the time being, so I'll save it. The palette files will have an extension of XTP. Now save. Just give close. Now when you go to desktop, you can see that this particular palette file is created. It will also create a folder which consists of the images related with this palette. We have a folder here called SAP Blocks. Just double click there in images and you will see the list of all the images, which is an integral part of the palette. And such files can be shared among your colleagues. You can keep such palette files on a common shareable folder in your computer network. Delete this particular palette from the list of palettes. So I'll just right click, go to customize palettes again, select the SAP Blocks, right click and you can delete it. Go to tools palette and open it once more and you won't see that palette here. Now right click again, go to customize palettes and I'll right click here and we have an import option and you can select that palette from the location where it is stored. Just give open. Now you will see that that palette is reappearing here. So this is how you import a palette file. By default, AutoCAD stores all the palette files which can be obtained by right clicking and go to options, and over here you will see tools palette file location which is indicated, and this location can be redirected to any other location. Now you can right click here and click on all palettes to get all the palettes back. Okay, so that's all about the idea of tool palette in AutoCAD.